The cold hum of the void was all that remained. No friendly signals, no council beacons, no rescue fleets, just blackness and them. Commander Dax Mercer sat in the shattered bridge of the Vanguard, fingers wrapped around a dented mug of stale coffee. The stars outside looked indifferent, distant as the Galactic Council's betrayal. He hadn't slept in days. None of them had. Survival had come down to fuel, air, ammo, and sheer fucking stubbornness. 2 years ago, humans had been part of the Council's Grand Coalition, celebrated as upstart allies with potential. They'd bled for Council wars, built colonies on barren rocks, supplied tech and soldiers. But when humanity's growing strength began to scare the elder races, the tone shifted fast. Meetings without human envoys, sanctions, trade cutoffs, then the declaration of rebalancing, which was polite speak for exile. The Council branded humanity a destabilizing force. Their fleets were ordered out of core space, their colonies declared null and void. And when a human envoy protested too loudly, a Council dreadnought accidentally destroyed a transport carrying thousands of civilians. No one was punished, no apology, just a message: leave or perish. But leaving wasn't simple. The hyperspace lanes were locked down, supplies were blockaded, ships targeted in deep space. Hundreds of thousands of humans vanished, starved, hunted, airlocks blown open mid-transit. That was 2 years ago, the day humanity vanished from the Council's maps. And yet here they were, forgotten, yes, but not dead. Mercer's fleet, once a small exploration group, had linked with dozens of refugee convoys, smugglers, and defectors. They'd fled deeper into the Persean expanse, a lawless stretch of unstable hyperspace currents where even Council fleets didn't dare linger. The place was full of rogue planets, gravity storms, shattered moons. But it was empty of politics, empty of spies. And it was there they began to build. The Hidden Bastion, a station cobbled from gutted warships and mining rigs, buried inside the cavernous heart of a rogue planet. Shielded from all scans, protected by fields the Council didn't even know existed. Fields powered by human-engineered reactors. It was ugly, it was dangerous, and it was home. "Commander." Dax looked up. Lieutenant Arden Gray stood stiff in the doorway, his uniform half-patched, eyes hollow but burning, a survivor's look. "We got a ping from Deep Patrol, one of ours. Says they intercepted a Council scout probe." Dax's grip on the mug tightened. "Did they trace it?" Number patrol rig disabled it and dumped the wreck in a gravity well. "Good." Dax stood. His legs ached from too many hours in one place. "It means they're sniffing again." "We knew this day would come." Dax stared at the battered fleet displays. Over 60 ships now. Refitted freighters, corvettes, a few stolen Council vessels repainted and rearmed. Hundreds of thousands of humans scattered across hidden colonies, outposts, mining rigs. Not a formal empire, not yet, but something more dangerous. A force with nothing left to lose. "They'll keep sniffing," Dax said, "and soon they'll realize what we've been building." Arden's voice was low. "Then we show them. We're not the same humans they exiled." A bitter smile touched Dax's lips. No, they weren't. The Council had forced evolution through fire. No more naive diplomats. No more trusting merchants. The humans out here were hardened, united by betrayal and survival instinct. A hidden empire forged from spite and grit. "Ready the fleet for silent maneuvers," Dax ordered. "Pull the outer patrols in tighter. And get me Captain Varen. We need to accelerate the shipyard schedules." "Yes, sir." Arden turned to go, then hesitated. "One more thing. There's chatter. Traders from the Rim say a Council battle group is moving through nearby sectors." Dax's smile faded. The Council hadn't forgotten them after all. Then it's time we remind them why they should have. The war room of the Hidden Bastion wasn't much to look at. Just a gutted Council command deck bolted onto an old human freighter core, its walls stripped bare, wiring exposed. But every screen, every display flickered with live feeds, fleet data, and intelligence updates far more advanced than their original builders had intended. Commander Dax Mercer paced slowly around the central holotable, eyes narrowed. The latest reports from the rim sectors scrolled in cold lines of text. Confirmed. Council Recon Battle Group E7, sighted in Sector 1172. Course, vectoring near Persean Expanse outer lanes. Estimated time to contact, 18 days. 18 days. That wasn't much time. Lieutenant Gray stood beside him, arms folded. Other key officers gathered around. Captain Varen of the Valkyrie, Admiral Caro from the Deep Fleet, Logistics Chief Merrick, and a half-dozen others. Survivors, all of them. No politicians, no grand titles. Just soldiers and engineers who'd refused to die when the Council had turned its back. Dax let the room settle, then spoke, voice level. We've all seen the scout probe intercept. Now we've got confirmation. A Council battle group is pushing into the outer lanes. Recon only, for now. For now, Merrick said with a snort. The grizzled logistics chief had lost 2 sons during the exile purge. Soon they'll send heavier teeth. They know something, Varen said, her tone clipped. They wouldn't risk a battle group this deep unless they suspected activity out here. Dax nodded grimly. Agreed. We've been too careful for too long. Someone talked, or a traitor got sloppy. Doesn't matter. What matters is what we do next. He tapped a command pad. The holotable shifted to display the Expanse sectors, a chaotic maze of unstable gravity wells, rogue planets, black holes, and shattered star systems. A perfect place to hide, until now. The Council thinks we're scattered refugees, Dax continued. Broken, starving. They're expecting pirates and smugglers, not organized resistance. Varen smiled thinly. That's their mistake. That's our advantage, Dax agreed. But if they push too close, they'll discover more than wreckage. Our shipyards, our colonies, everything we've built in secret. The room tensed. Caro leaned in. You're proposing a strike. Dax's gaze was cold. Not proposing, ordering. We don't wait for them to come knocking. We send a message, one they'll bleed to remember. The officers exchanged looks. There was no hesitation. They'd bled too much for caution now. Targets? Merrick asked. Dax keyed up a second display. Council Recon Group schematics, compiled from intercepted signals and old Council databases. Battlegroup E7 consists of 5 cruisers, 6 escort frigates, and 1 command carrier. He zoomed in on the carrier. CSS Imminence, flagship, primary recon hub, their data relay. If we cripple it, they'll be blind and spooked. Varen's smile turned feral. Let me take the Valkyrie. We'll gut it before they even know we're there. Dax considered. The Valkyrie was one of their few true warships, an old Council frigate captured and rebuilt from the hull up, now faster, stealthier, and armed with weapons the elder races wouldn't expect from primitive humans. But it was also a risk. If they lost her, they'd lose more than firepower. They'd lose momentum. Not alone, Dax said. We'll send in Strike Wing 3 with Valkyrie, 6 stealth corvettes, fast and quiet. Hit and vanish. Caro frowned. If we strike first, the Council may escalate. Dax's voice hardened. If we don't, they'll escalate anyway. You think they sent scouts here to parley? Number they're here to map routes, find weaknesses, and then bring the hammer. The room fell silent. The truth hung heavy in the recycled air. Then we strike, Varen said finally. Gray nodded. Better to choose the battlefield. Dax looked around. Faces set. No cowards here. No diplomats pleading for compromise. They'd all lost too much to believe in council mercy anymore. Good, Dax said. Prep Strike Wing 3. Varen, you'll lead. I want the Imminence crippled, destroyed if possible. Priority is to sow confusion, not hold ground. Hit and fade. No risks to the Bastion. Varen saluted sharply. Understood. Everyone else, Dax continued, voice steely. Tighten fleet patrols. Accelerate shipyard output. We need more hulls ready for combat. And increase security protocols. No communications beyond secured channels. No unnecessary traffic. If the Council's sniffing, they may have informants. He let that warning hang. There had already been a few suspected leaks. Traitors hoping to trade human lives for safe Council exile. None of them had lived long. Dismissed, Dax finished. We move fast. We move quiet. Meeting adjourned. The officers filed out, Varen already tapping out orders on her datapad. Gray lingered as Dax stared at the swirling expanse map. You think they'll take the bait? Gray asked quietly. They'll have to, Dax replied. A crippled flagship will shake their confidence, force them to rethink their push. And when they send more? Dax's jaw tightened. Then we fight harder. He looked at Gray, eyes cold. They exiled us to die. We chose not to. That's an unforgivable sin to them. They'll keep coming until one side breaks. Gray nodded slowly. Let's make sure it's not us. 3 days later. The Valkyrie drifted silently through the dark folds of the Persean expanse, her hull coated in adaptive stealth polymer, running cold. Around her, 6 sleek human corvettes held formation, their drives throttled low to avoid any hyperspace wake. Ahead, the CSS Imminence loomed, a sleek council carrier, bristling with sensor arrays and gleaming with arrogance. Unaware that death stalked from the shadows, Varen sat in the Valkyrie's command chair, eyes locked on the tactical feed. Her crew was tense but ready. Veterans, everyone. They'd survived the exile purge. They'd lost homes, families, lovers. Now they wanted blood. Approach vector confirmed, her XO reported. Council picket sensors still blind to us. Varen smiled grimly. Good. Bring us in range. Arm strike pods. Ready EMP volleys. Across the squadron, missile tubes primed. EMP warheads, perfect for frying the delicate council systems that relied too much on tech and too little on grit. The council had forgotten how dangerous humans could be. Mark targets, Varen ordered. Primary, imminence. Secondary, support escorts. Fire on my command. Silence. The crew waited, breath held. Range optimal, the XO whispered. Varen's eyes flashed. Fire. The void lit up. Dozens of shimmering missiles streaked through space, invisible to council sensors until it was too late. Moments later, blinding EMP bursts tore through the Imminence's systems. Lights flickered, shields collapsed, comms died in bursts of static. Before the council fleet could react, the Valkyrie and her escorts pounced, plasma lances and railguns shredding the carrier's exposed hull. Council frigates scrambled, but their targeting was blind, confused. Varen's voice was ice. Hit and fade, no heroics, withdraw on my mark. The Imminence reeled, crippled. Fires raged across its decks. Council crews struggled in vain. One last volley from the Valkyrie blew its comms tower clean off. Mark, Varen commanded. All ships, withdraw. Now. The human ships vanished into the expanse's shadows, drives flaring briefly before melting into cold silence. The council fleet was left crippled, humiliated, and blind. 2 days later. Back in the hidden bastion, Dax read the after-action report with grim satisfaction. The Imminence was listed as non-operational, casualties high, council signals panicked, fragmentary. A message had been sent. Humanity was no longer prey. Gray entered, face alight. The Rim traders are already buzzing, word spreading that someone gutted a council battle group. Good, Dax said. Let them talk. He leaned forward, eyes cold as the void. They wanted us gone, forgotten. Now they'll remember us. He looked at the map of the growing human holdings, shipyards, colonies, hidden fleets, an empire forged in exile, and the war was just beginning. The aftermath of the Valkyries' strike echoed across the hidden corridors of the Bastion. In every hangar, workshop, and wardroom the story spread, how human ships had crippled a mighty council carrier and escaped untouched. It was more than a victory. It was a shift. For the first time in 2 long, bitter years, the scattered survivors of humanity tasted the one thing exile had stolen from them: hope. But Dax Mercer knew hope was dangerous. Hope bred arrogance, and arrogance could get them all killed. He stood in his private quarters, little more than a converted maintenance cabin, and stared at the flickering reports filling his datapad. Council fleet movements had changed. No longer slow recon sweeps, no longer cautious probes. Now they came in force. 2 full battle groups redeployed to the Persian border, dozens of scouts fanning the outer lanes. The council was rattled, and cornered beasts bit hardest. A chime sounded. Dax didn't look up. Enter. Gray stepped in, face grim. You've seen the new fleet reports? Yes. Dax tossed the pad onto the table. They're coming. In numbers we can't match. Gray nodded. We've disrupted their image of control. They have to respond, or risk the lesser races seeing them as weak. Exactly. Dax rubbed tired eyes. And we're not ready for a full-scale engagement. Not yet. He paced the cramped room, mind racing. They'd built faster than anyone thought possible. Shipyards hidden in asteroid fields, new weapons developed in secret. But even their growing fleet was a fraction of Council strength. Open battle was suicide. We need time, Dax said. More hulls, more fighters, more colonies self-sufficient. And right now we don't have it. Gray hesitated. There's another problem. Dax stopped. What? Division. Some of the outer colonies. They're starting to question your leadership. Dax's gaze darkened. Names? Gray exhaled. Governor Holst of New Meridian, Captain Varric of the Old Earth Guard. They think your strikes are provoking the Council unnecessarily. Unnecessarily? Dax's voice was ice. The Council exiled us to die, tried to erase us. They'll finish the job if we don't fight. I know, Gray said quietly, but not everyone sees it. They want to hunker down, stay hidden. They fear another purge. Cowards, Dax thought bitterly, but useful cowards. They controlled vital resources, ore, food, fuel. The Bastion couldn't afford civil fractures now. We'll deal with them, he said, but not by bending. He strode to the comm console. Send a priority summons. Holst, Varric, the sector governors. I want them here, in person. Gray nodded. Understood. He paused. And the fleet? Put all combat units on heightened readiness. No single ships outside controlled lanes. If the Council wants a war, we'll give them a fucking nightmare. 2 days later, the Bastion's war hall thrummed with tension. Around the central table, the sector governors gathered, representatives from the scattered human enclaves across the expanse. Lean, weathered men and women hardened by survival, and among them, the dissenters. Governor Holst, a corpulent bureaucrat who'd once ruled a prosperous colony before the exile, and Captain Varric, a decorated Earth Guard officer whose loyalty had started to fray. Dax entered without ceremony. No grand uniform, just his worn commander's jacket. He didn't need symbols. His presence carried its own weight. He scanned the room. No greetings, no pleasantries, just hard eyes watching. Let's be clear, Dax began, voice sharp. You've all seen the reports. The Council is moving, and they're moving because we struck first. Holst leaned forward, face flushed. Exactly. You provoked them. We could have remained hidden for years, built our strength quietly. Now they'll hunt us down. And what? Dax shot back. Wait until they blockade us? Starve us? Assassinate our leaders one by one? You think they would have left us in peace? They fear us, and when tyrants fear, they kill. Varick's voice was cold. You assume we can win a war of attrition. We can't. Not yet. We should consolidate, fortify, not provoke. Dax stepped closer to the table, eyes burning. They already consider us an enemy. They sent warships into the expanse. They would have found the bastion sooner or later. We chose when to fight, on our terms. He pointed to the holomap of Council fleet movements. Look, their battle groups are hesitating, diverting to protect core supply lines. We've shattered their illusion of invulnerability. That buys us time. Time to build. Time to prepare. Every moment they fear another strike is a moment they don't strike us. Holst sneered. And when they come in force, when they burn everything we've built, then we burn them back, Dax said flatly, because I'd rather die on my feet than be hunted like vermin. The room fell silent. Finally, Gray spoke from the sidelines. You all remember what they did. The exile wasn't a political act. It was a purge. They killed our civilians, starved our colonies. Any thought that hiding will save us is delusion. Varick's gaze flickered. Even Holst looked uncertain. Dax pressed. You want to talk survival? Fine. Survival means unity. If you fracture this alliance now, you do the Council's work for them. He leaned forward. I don't need loyalty to me. I need loyalty to humanity. You owe that to the thousands buried in frozen voids, to the children growing up in steel coffins because the Council stole their homeworld. A heavy silence settled. Then Varick spoke, voice low. I don't like your methods, Mercer, but you're right about one thing. The Council won't stop. Holst looked sullen, but finally gave a stiff nod. I'll cooperate, for now. Dax straightened. Good, because the next phase starts now. He brought up a new display, hidden shipyards, new weapons in testing, advanced stealth cruisers nearing completion. We can't outnumber them, but we can outthink them. We hit where they're weak. Supply lines, communications, leadership. We make the cost of hunting us too high. Varick's eyes narrowed. And if the Council declares total war? Dax smiled grimly. Then we show them total war. Later that night, Dax sat alone in his quarters, staring at an old photo, his wife and daughter lost during the first purge. It was all he had left of them. He didn't allow himself to mourn. Not anymore. A chime sounded. Gray entered. The governors will fall in line, Gray reported quietly. For now, they'd better. Dax set the photo down. We can't afford division. There's something else, Gray said. A deep recon probe returned. Found something. He handed over a data chip. Dax slotted it into the console. The screen lit with scans of a derelict station, ancient, massive, buried in a dead system on the edge of the expanse. Unknown origin, Gray said. Not Council, not human. But power signatures still active. Dax's mind raced. New tech, a potential edge. Prep an exploration team, he ordered. I want to know what's in there. It could change everything. Gray nodded. And the fleet? Dax's eyes gleamed cold. We escalate. We make the Council bleed, and we remind the galaxy that humanity wasn't erased. He rose, voice a razor edge. They exiled us. They forgot us. Now they'll learn to fear us. The derelict station hung in the void like a black wound against the stars. No name, no records. Not even the Council's vast archives held mention of this place. It was massive, kilometers long, forged of strange alloyed metals that didn't match any known chart. The station orbited a dead star, locked in the gravitational shadows of a collapsed system, where even the Council's most advanced sensors rarely dared to scan. And it was still alive. Faint power signatures pulsed deep inside its dark heart. No broadcasts, no signals, just a steady rhythm, like a dying heartbeat. Dax stood aboard the strike cruiser Resolute, watching the approach on the main display. Around him, the exploration team made final checks, engineers, specialists, and a squad of hardened Marines. Gray stood at his side, gaze steady. "This could be a trap," Gray said quietly. Dax nodded. "Or an opportunity we can't afford to miss." If the station held advanced technology, anything that could give the hidden human empire an edge, then the risk was worth it. The Council's fleets grew larger by the day. Humanity needed more than ships and grit. They needed something the Council didn't expect. "Boarding team ready," the Marine sergeant reported. "Proceed," Dax ordered. The boarding shuttle drifted silently to one of the station's gaping outer docks, an airlock half shattered by time or violence. The team moved in quickly, weapons ready. Inside, the station was a frozen tomb, corridors lined with unfamiliar glyphs, bulkheads fused shut or warped by ancient forces. But beneath the decay, something stirred. Power conduits still humming faintly, systems not entirely dead. Dax led from the front. He wouldn't send men where he wouldn't go himself. His rifle swept each shadow as they advanced. "Reading energy spikes ahead," one of the engineers whispered. They reached a vast central chamber, once a control hub. A towering spire of crystalline tech rose from the floor, wrapped in coils of strange machinery. Faint pulses of light ran through it, rhythmic and unnatural. "This isn't Council tech," Gray muttered. "No," Dax agreed. "Older, smarter." The engineer approached carefully, scanning. "Power cores active, controlled fusion, stable, but there's more." He tapped the scanner, confused. "Data arrays still functioning, interface unknown, and something's transmitting, but not on any known frequency." Dax stepped closer. The pulsing light seemed to respond to their presence, quickening like a heartbeat. "Can we access it?" "Maybe," the engineer said. "But carefully. A forced hack could trigger defenses." "We don't force it," Dax said. "We learn it." He looked at Gray. "This station was hidden here for a reason. We're not the first to fear the Council. Whoever built this might have faced them, or something worse." Gray's expression darkened. "You think this is a war relic?" "I think it's a weapon," Dax said grimly. "Or a warning." Back at the Bastion, 5 days later. The engineering bays buzzed with frantic activity. Data from the ancient station poured into secured labs, studied by the best minds of the hidden empire. What they'd found was staggering. Advanced materials with self-repair properties, shielding tech far beyond Council capabilities. And at the heart of it all, a partial blueprint for an energy system that could revolutionize human warships. But the data wasn't complete. The station had deeper layers, encrypted beyond their current tools. And something was resisting. Not just code. Something almost sentient. Dax watched the latest analysis, jaw tight. Time was running out. The Council's fleets were moving faster now. Intercepted comms revealed a new task force assembling, one aimed directly at the Expanse. And worse, internal tensions were rising again. Governor Holst had begun stirring dissent once more, spreading fear of provoking ancient forces humanity didn't understand. Cowardice, Dax thought bitterly. But dangerous cowardice. The hidden empire couldn't afford fractures now. Gray entered, face grim. "We've decoded more of the station's data. There's something else." He handed over a tablet. Dax read quickly. A message, fragmented, ancient, but chilling in its clarity. They come again, not counsel, worse. To survive, the weapon must awaken. Dax's blood ran cold. Worse than the council? Gray asked quietly. Dax didn't answer. He stared at the glyphs, mind racing. Whoever built the station had faced something beyond known history, and they had failed, or fled. Now humanity stood on the same threshold. Later that night, a secret meeting in one of the Bastion's secured chambers. Dax, Gray, Captain Varen, Admiral Caro, no governors, no civilians, only those ready to do what had to be done. Dax laid out the facts. The station's tech could give humanity a vital edge. New shields, advanced power systems, possibly even unknown weaponry. But fully unlocking it required deeper access, and time they didn't have. At the same time, the Council's fleets were closing in, and internal dissent threatened to fracture their fragile alliance. The governors are becoming a liability, Varen said coldly. Holst in particular. He's spreading panic, suggesting we abandon the Bastion and scatter. Caro's voice was iron. If we scatter now, we'll be hunted down one by one. Dax nodded. Which is why we won't. He looked at them, voice cold. We escalate, controlled strikes, target council logistics, force them to divert resources. Meanwhile, we continue unlocking the station's tech. And the dissent? Varen asked bluntly. Dax's gaze hardened. I'll deal with Holst personally. He looked at each of them in turn. We didn't choose this war, but we'll finish it. The Council thought they could erase us. They were wrong, and if this ancient threat is real... He tapped the tablet, eyes burning. Then we may be the galaxy's last line of defense. 2 days later. Dax entered Governor Holst's quarters alone, sidearm holstered but ready. Holst was waiting, face pale but defiant. You come to threaten me now, Commander? Holst sneered. I represent the civilian colonies. You can't rule by force forever. No, Dax said calmly, but I can remove traitors. Holst paled. I'm no traitor. You're spreading panic, undermining unity, risking everything we've built. Dax stepped closer. You can stand with humanity, or be remembered as the fool who tore us apart when we needed unity most. Holst swallowed hard. Sweat beaded on his brow. You wouldn't dare. Dax's voice was ice. Test me. A long silence. Finally, Holst broke, slumping in his chair. I'll support your command, he whispered. Publicly. Dax stared at him a moment longer, then turned to leave. See that you do. For your sake. In the days that followed, the hidden empire moved swiftly. Strike teams raided Council supply convoys. New warships, now partially enhanced with tech from the ancient station, entered service. Morale surged. The fleet began to resemble a true force, not just survivors. And deep within the Bastion's labs, the final layers of the station's data began to crack. What they revealed was terrifying, a warning, a dark force beyond Council knowledge, ancient, returning, and humanity, forgotten, exiled, hardened, might be the only ones capable of standing against it. Dax stood in the war hall, watching the fleet mobilize. His voice was low but carried steel. They tried to erase us. Now we rise. Not just to survive, but to lead. To forge an empire the Council will fear and the galaxy will need. The war was no longer just for revenge. Now it was for the future of all. The first sign of it wasn't a ship. It wasn't a fleet. It was silence. Whole rim colonies went dark. No signals, no distress calls, no wreckage found. Merchant scouts vanished without trace. Patrols sent to investigate never reported back. Even the Council's probes disappeared, their transponders cut mid-broadcast. And then, the dreams began. Across the hidden Bastion and the outer colonies, people started reporting strange visions. Black shapes moving in the void, whispers in languages no one knew, a suffocating sense of dread. Hardened soldiers woke, screaming. Civilians collapsed from night terrors. And then came the fragmentary signal. A trader convoy stumbled upon the wreck of a Council recon ship adrift near Sector 1311. The hull was intact, no battle damage, but the crew, what was left, had torn each other apart. Before going dark, the ship's AI had sent a broken, half-corrupted message. "They are here, not Council, not known, no escape, no." The rest was static. Dax listened to the playback in the Bastion's war hall, face set like stone. Gray stood nearby, jaw clenched. "It's begun," Dax said quietly. Gray nodded grimly. "The ancient threat?" Dax's eyes burned cold. "And the Council doesn't even know what they're facing." That same day, in the Persean border sectors, Council fleets moved aggressively now, driven by fear and political desperation, but their arrogance still blinded them. Task Force Theta, 12 cruisers, dozens of escorts, entered the Expanse's outer sectors without escorting science vessels, without proper recon. They expected primitive human ambushes, sabotage, raids. What they found was something else entirely. The first cruiser simply went dark. One moment its beacon pulsed steady, the next it vanished from every sensor. No debris, no explosion. Gone. Minutes later, another ship lost power completely. Engines fried, lights flickering. A frantic distress call screamed across open comms. "Hull breach, shapes inside. No known life signs, repeat, they're inside." And then silence. Within an hour, half the task force was crippled or missing. The survivors limped back toward Council space, leaving wreckage drifting through dead stars. Back at the Bastion. "Council Command is panicking," Gray reported. "Intercepted comms suggest they think it's a new human weapon." Dax shook his head. "Let them think that. The truth is worse." He brought up the latest data from the ancient station's archives. The full translation was nearly complete now, thanks to their best linguists and the AI they'd adapted from the station's own systems. They are beyond the veil. They feed on thought, on life. The Council does not remember, but we did. We built this place to hold the line. We failed. If they breach the veil fully, none will stand. Dax's voice was iron. "We stand now." Varen entered, face hard. "Scouts report another Council fleet moving in. Bigger this time, 20 capital ships, full carrier support." Dax nodded. "They still think they're hunting us. They don't realize the prey is behind them now." He straightened, voice cold. "We'll let them draw the enemy's attention, for now. But we need eyes on whatever's moving beyond the veil. If we don't understand it, we can't fight it." Gray spoke carefully. "The AI from the station. It's still wary. It won't reveal full data, but it offered coordinates. Deep sector. A breach point." Dax stared at him. "You trust it?" "Number, but I trust the need to know more." Dax's decision was instant. "Assemble an exploration wing. I'll lead it myself." Gray's eyes widened. "You're too valuable to risk." "I'm too valuable not to understand what we're facing." Dax's voice was steel. "If I fall, you know what to do." 3 days later, the Valkyrie led the exploration wing into the heart of the Expanse, into a sector no chart recorded. The space itself felt wrong. Gravity shifted unpredictably, light bent in strange arcs. Sensor readings were unreliable, and then they saw it. A tear in space itself. A massive rift, shimmering with sickly black and violet light. No stars beyond, just endless void. Dax watched from the Valkyrie's bridge, heart pounding. The breach. A faint energy pulse radiated outward, and beyond the breach, movement, shadows twisting through the void, no defined shape, no clear mass, just the sense of something alive, and ancient. Reading psychic interference, the science officer whispered. No known energy signature. It's in our heads. Even hardened veterans sweated under the oppressive pressure, hearing faint whispers that weren't there. Dax's voice was iron. Record everything, and prepare to withdraw on my mark. But then one of the shadows surged toward them, not through space, through thought itself. Crew members staggered, clutching heads. Systems flickered. The Valkyrie's AI screamed warnings. "Get us out!" Dax roared. Engines flared. The fleet tore away from the breach, barely escaping the growing psychic storm. One escort corvette didn't make it, lost without a trace. Back in safe space, Dax stood trembling but alive. Now they knew. It wasn't just an ancient force. It was awake. It was aware. And it was hungry. Back at the Bastion War Hall, Dax debriefed the High Command. Gray, Varen, Caro. Their faces were pale, hard. "You saw it?" Varen asked quietly. "I felt it," Dax said grimly. "It feeds on life itself, on thought. If it spreads, not just humanity, everything falls." Silence. Then Caro spoke. "The Council must be told." Dax's smile was bitter. "And would they listen? They still think we're behind the attacks. They'd rather blame us than face the truth." Gray spoke coldly. "Then we force them to listen. We strike where they must respond." Dax nodded slowly. A dark plan forming. "We hit a key world, not to destroy it but to plant the truth. Force the Council to see what's coming." Varen grinned savagely. "And if they still deny?" Dax's gaze burned. "Then we fight on our own terms. We didn't ask for this war, but by God we'll finish it." He looked at the gathered leaders. "We were forgotten, exiled, hardened. Now the galaxy will learn. Humanity will not die easy." The War Council met in the deepest level of the Bastion, an armored chamber shielded from all known forms of surveillance. If the Council ever breached these walls, it would mean the end. But Dax wasn't thinking about endings, not anymore. On the holotable before them, a new target blinked. Council Core World Erithos Prime, one of their prized inner colonies. A hub of military command and trade, heavily defended, unassailable under normal conditions. But Dax didn't intend to level it. Not this time. "We go in to plant the message," he said coldly. "They won't listen to transmissions. They'll dismiss any warnings as propaganda. So we force the truth into their hands, something they can't ignore." Gray studied the plan. "You want to deploy a probe on a core world?" "An adapted core from the ancient station," Dax confirmed. "We've built it with human interfaces. It contains the breach data, sensor records, AI analysis, everything." Varen grinned darkly. "And when it activates?" "The Council's own networks will light up with warnings they can't scrub. Their own leaders will see what's coming." Caro leaned forward. "Risky, if they trace it back to us." "They already blame us," Dax cut in. "Let them. The real threat is coming fast, and if we don't fracture the Council's blind arrogance, they'll doom the whole galaxy." He looked around the table. "This is about survival. Ours and everyone else's. No one's coming to save us. We make them see, or we stand alone." The strike group prepared in silence. Dax would lead the operation personally. He refused to delegate the most critical mission humanity had yet attempted. The strike team was small. Valkyrie with her stealth systems enhanced by ancient tech, 2 stealth corvettes, and a special insertion team of hardened veterans. Each man and woman in the team had volunteered, knowing full well the risk. A one-way mission if things went wrong. In the armory, Dax checked his rifle, then holstered a sidearm loaded with plasma rounds. Gray approached, face grim. "You don't have to lead this." "Yes, I do." Dax's voice was iron. "If this works, it could turn the war. If it fails, they'll need to know I stood with them." Gray's eyes hardened. Then bring them back alive. Dax clasped his shoulder. I'll see you when it's done. 5 days later, Erithos Prime Orbit. The Valkyrie drifted among the bustling lanes of Council traffic, her hull cloaked by advanced distortion fields. Below, the glittering spires of the capital world shimmered against a pale blue atmosphere. Dax watched from the bridge. Approach vector locked. Proceed with Phase 1. The stealth corvettes launched compact pods, one of them containing the data core. Their target? The planetary comm grid Nexus, a secure relay hub near the central council spire. Insertion teams would land under false IDs, slip the core into the system, and trigger its activation. Simple on paper, lethal in execution. Dax led the first team down in a disguised transport, wearing civilian gear over light armor. The city below sparkled, perfect, clean, and blind to the coming storm. As they landed, Dax's voice was cold over the comm. Remember, we're not here to kill. We're here to wake them up. No unnecessary engagements. The Marines nodded, eyes hard. They'd seen what lay beyond the breach. They understood the stakes. Groundside, Council Spire sector. Moving through the glittering streets, Dax felt the weight of exile burn in his veins. Everywhere he looked, Council banners, arrogant officials, civilians who still believed humanity had been wiped out or scattered like animals. And soon, those illusions would shatter. The insertion point was close, a sub-level beneath the comm nexus. The team moved swiftly, avoiding patrols, bypassing scanners using their ancient adapted tech. Then they reached the core vault. Gray's voice crackled over the link. Main network pulse in 12 minutes, that's your window. Copy, Dax replied. With practiced precision, they breached the final security door. Inside, the team's tech officer connected the data core, its interface shimmering with alien glyphs and human overlays. Initializing now, 5 minutes to activation. Dax's gut tightened. Too easy. Something was wrong, and then the alarms blared. Council forces inbound, the lookout shouted. Someone triggered a silent trace. Hold position, Dax ordered. We finished the job. Outside, chaos erupted. Council guards stormed the sector. Automated defenses locked down streets. The sleek perfection of Erithos Prime cracked as sirens howled. Inside the vault, the data core pulsed faster. 70%, 80, almost there. Dax gripped his rifle, covering the entrance. On my mark, we move. The first wave of Council soldiers hit, elite guards in polished armor. The firefight was brutal and fast. Plasma bolts scorched the vault entrance. Dax dropped 2 with precise shots. Core at 95, almost done. Another wave came. One Marine fell, a plasma round ripping through his side. The others fought like wolves, veterans hardened by exile, their fury a weapon the Council couldn't match. Core complete, upload triggered. The tech officer yanked the core cables. Data flooding their network now, no way to stop it. Dax's voice was iron. Fall back, exfil pattern alpha. The extraction was chaos. Fighting through lockdown zones, the team split into 2 groups. Dax led his squad through maintenance tunnels, pursued by Council drones. The city above burned with confusion. Civilians panicked, traffic frozen. And across the Council's network, the data spread. Sensor records of the breach, the warning from the ancient AI, visuals of the thing beyond the veil, a truth no Council sensor could now erase. At the spaceport, the Valkyrie swooped in, guns blazing. Dax's team fought to the extraction point under covering fire. 1 more Marine fell, but the rest made it aboard. Punch us out, Dax roared. The Valkyrie's engines screamed as they jumped to high orbit, dodging Council pursuit. Within minutes, they cleared the interdiction zone, then leapt to hyperspace. Back at the bastion, the War Council met in tense silence. Dax stood, armor scorched, eyes burning. The core was deployed. The data is loose. They can't stop it now. Gray spoke grimly. Reports from our spies say Council worlds are already in chaos. Leaders demanding answers. Civilian panic spreading. Varen smiled darkly. Good. Let them taste fear. But Dax wasn't smiling. This is just the beginning, he said coldly. The breach is growing. The thing is coming. The Council will have no choice now but to face it, or fall. He looked at his commanders. And if they fall, we stand alone. The Council fractured faster than anyone predicted. It started with panic on the outer worlds, civilian broadcasts showing fragments of the breach, Council ships vanishing without trace, whispers of something moving through space itself. Then came the riots. On Sarathis Prime, Council civilians stormed government halls demanding answers. On Arcton 5, military officers refused deployment orders. Entire border sectors cut communications, unwilling to send more ships into the unknown. The Council's grand illusion of control collapsed under its own arrogance. But not all of them denied the truth. A few voices, quiet at first, called for negotiations, for unity against this new threat. And some looked to humanity. Dax paced the Bastion's war hall, watching the chaotic flow of intercepted Council comms. Every minute, new signs of their disintegration appeared. Gray entered, face grim. It's happening. We've cracked them. Not enough, Dax said coldly. They still blame us. Enough of them will choose war rather than admit their weakness. Gray nodded. But there's something else. We intercepted a message from a Council admiral. He handed over a tablet. Dax read quickly. To the human command. I do not speak for the Council, but I speak for those who wish to live. We know the threat is real. We must talk before it is too late. The signature was genuine. Admiral Kalen Voss, a known hardliner who had apparently turned after seeing the breach data firsthand. Dax's eyes narrowed. A trap? Possibly, Gray said. But if it's real, it's the first opening we've had. Dax stared at the flickering Council fleet map. Already several sectors had declared neutrality. Council unity was dying. But without coordination, the galaxy would fall, piecemeal, alone. Finally, Dax spoke. Arrange a secure channel. If they want to talk, they do it on our terms. 2 days later, secure comlink established. Dax sat alone in the war hall's private chamber, hololink active. Admiral Kalen Voss appeared, a gaunt man in Council fleet black, eyes shadowed by exhaustion and fear. I expected your kind to ignore me, Voss began. We're not fools, Dax replied coldly. We know what's coming, and we know your Council still plans to blame us. Voss didn't deny it. Many do, but more are awakening to the truth. Your strike forced that. Now they see the breach cannot be denied. Dax leaned forward. Words won't stop what's coming. Voss nodded grimly. Then we propose an accord. Limited at first. Intelligence sharing, coordinated reconnaissance, and, if necessary, joint fleet action. Dax's expression hardened. Trust. After your people exiled us to die? Voss's face tightened. I have no excuses. I only know survival matters more than vengeance now. If we stand divided, we all fall. Dax stared at him long and hard. We will consider your offer. But know this. If you betray us again, there will be no second chance. Voss's voice was iron. Understood. After the transmission, Gray entered. Well? Dax's voice was low. He's afraid, but sincere. Gray's jaw tightened. Do we trust them? Number, but we use them. Dax's eyes burned. The breach is spreading. We can't face it alone. We use their resources. On our terms. Meanwhile, deeper in the expanse, scouts reported new breaches. Smaller, spreading across multiple sectors. Entire systems were going dark, their populations consumed or driven mad by the unseen force. And for the first time, a new horror emerged. A crippled human patrol ship drifted back to the bastion, automated distress beacons active. When boarding teams entered, they found no living crew, only bodies twisted by unknown energies. But worse, one body still moved, its flesh darkened, its eyes black voids. It spoke in a voice not its own. You cannot stop the hunger. You cannot stop us. Then it disintegrated, leaving no trace. In the Bastion's labs, scientists studied the ship's data. The verdict was grim. This is no simple life form, the chief scientist reported. It alters thought itself, infects through perception. The breach is alive. Dax listened in silence. It's learning. Every encounter strengthens it. Gray spoke quietly. We face extinction. Dax's eyes gleamed cold. Unless we change the rules. In the hidden shipyards, Dax ordered full acceleration of Project Aegis, an experimental warship using ancient tech, enhanced shields, and psychic-resistant systems. A single prototype, but potentially a weapon the breach had never faced. Varen reported from the yards. The ship will be ready within weeks, but one isn't enough. One will lead, Dax said, and others will follow, if we survive long enough. But not all humans stood with Dax. A new betrayal surfaced. Governor Holst again. Intelligence intercepted secret messages. Holst had contacted a rogue council faction, offering to surrender key human colonies in exchange for amnesty and power under a restored council order. Coward. Traitor. Dax summoned Holst personally. The governor arrived pale, defiant. You can't win this alone. Humanity needs a place at the council's table. Dax's voice was ice. You'd sell our people to those who tried to wipe us out, for your own seat. They can protect us, Holst snapped. You can't stop that thing. Dax stood, eyes blazing. Number but we'll fight, and we'll do it as free men, not slaves. He drew his sidearm slowly. You've chosen your side. Holst's eyes widened. Wait! A single shot echoed. The traitor fell. Dax holstered the weapon, voice cold. Let that be the last betrayal. In the days that followed, Dax addressed the fleet. His voice carried across every ship, every colony. We were forgotten, exiled, hunted, but we survived. Now the galaxy faces a darkness older than memory. We stand on the edge of extinction, but we do not stand alone. He looked into the camera. Some among the council have seen the truth. Others will join us, or fall, but make no mistake, humanity will fight, and we will endure. A pause. For if we fall, there will be nothing left for them to rule. They came in a tide of darkness. Beyond the veil, the breach pulsed now like a vast, living wound. Sensors failed to map its true size. The psychic pressure grew unbearable even from distant systems. Ships caught too close vanished, crew driven mad or consumed outright. And now, they moved. Shadow forms, fluid, ever-shifting, emerged across multiple sectors. Not ships, not life as known. Something older, hungrier. Their mere presence warped space and thought. Planets in their path went dark, populations either annihilated or twisted into soulless husks. The final battle had begun. In the Bastion War Hall, Dax stood before the gathered commanders, human and council alike. Admiral Kalen Voss had arrived days earlier with a battered fleet, one of the first council factions to formally align with the human resistance. Others had followed. Former enemies now stood side by side in grim necessity. The war map flickered with red. Breach forces moving rapidly, faster than predicted. Dax's voice cut the tension. They can't be reasoned with, can't be bribed. There's only one language they understand. He tapped the map. Force. Voss nodded grimly. Our core fleets are already compromised. Your forces lead. Dax didn't smile. The irony was bitter. The exiled leading the so-called enlightened. He looked around. We have one chance. We hit them at the main breach. The Aegis prototype spearheads the assault. Its shielding is the only thing proven to resist their psychic attacks. Gray added, Fleet elements will screen and support. Hit fast, hard, no retreats. If we lose the breach, we lose everything. Voss's face hardened. Understood. Dax's voice turned to steel. Prepare the fleet. This is our line. Hold or die. 3 days later, near the breach, the combined fleet gathered, a ragged but determined armada. Human strike cruisers and stealth corvettes now bristling with ancient enhanced weaponry. Council battlecruisers reinforced with human-engineered shielding. At their center, Aegis I, the prototype warship. A sleek, angular vessel wrapped in shimmering adaptive fields, its core systems shielded by layered tech from the ancient station. The only ship capable of facing the breach directly. Dax stood on its bridge, armored, ready, Gray at his side, Voss commanding the council flank, Varen leading the vanguard. Ahead, the breach loomed, vast, pulsing, alive. And then the tide came. Thousands of shadow forms surged outward, fluid masses shifting and writhing, ignoring known physics. Their presence shattered lesser ships, minds breaking under the psychic assault. Dax's voice rang out. All ships, engage, hold formation. The battle erupted in brutal fury. Human plasma lances and railguns struck first. Some shadows dissolved under the assault. Others adapted and pressed harder. Council beam arrays carved gaps in the tide, but for each destroyed, more surged forward. Valkyrie danced through the melee, guns blazing, Varen's voice a cold weapon. Aim for energy cores, watch for shifts. But even with all their firepower, the tide pressed on. Ships fell. A council dreadnought imploded under psychic overload. Human frigates were torn apart by tendrils of black energy. And then Aegis I reached the breach. Dax's voice was cold iron. Activate core. Prepare final strike. The ship's heart, a fusion of human and ancient tech, awoke. A blinding pulse radiated outward, shielding allied ships and disrupting the shadows. But the breach itself began to fight back. Waves of psychic force hammered the fleet. Crews screamed as visions tore through their minds. Even hardened veterans staggered. Gray's voice was tight. Shields holding, barely. Dax stared at the swirling breach. Prepare the Nova weapon. The Nova weapon. A desperate last invention. An ancient derived energy bomb designed to collapse the breach from within. No guarantee it would work. No certainty they'd survive. But it was the only chance. Varen's voice came over comms. Fleet can't hold much longer. Do it, Dax. Voss added coldly. History won't matter if we fail. Dax's jaw tightened. He looked at Gray. Deploy the weapon. Aegis I surged forward, deeper into the breach's edge. The Nova weapon armed, its unstable core pulsing dangerously. Shadow forms swarmed, sensing the threat. All weapons, covering fire, Dax ordered. Guns blazed. Rail slugs and plasma lances tore gaps, but the breach lashed out. A massive psychic wave slammed into Aegis I. Crew collapsed. Systems flickered. Dax fought to stay upright. Blood trickled from his nose. Voices, not his, whispered in his mind. You are nothing. We are forever. He roared in defiance. Not today. Gray, pale but standing, reported. Weapon armed. 10 seconds. Hold course. The final moment. The Nova weapon launched, a burning star of unstable energy. It tore into the breach, spiraling inward. The shadows screamed, not in sound, but in thought. An overwhelming wail that shattered lesser minds. A blinding explosion followed, white light eclipsing the stars. The breach pulsed, collapsed inward. Space rippling violently, the shadows writhed, disintegrated, and were gone. Silence. Aftermath. The fleet drifted in shattered formation. Debris filled the void. Of the combined armada, less than half survived. But the breach was closed. For now. Aboard Aegis 1, Dax stood on the battered bridge. Gray leaned against a console, bleeding but alive. Varen's voice crackled through. "We held," Voss followed. "The breach is gone. No more readings." Dax's voice was low, raw. "We did what they said was impossible." Later, at the Bastion, a memorial for the fallen. Names read aloud, human and council alike, a rare unity forged in blood. Dax addressed them all. "We were exiled, forgotten, hunted. But we stood, we fought, and we survived." He looked at the gathered leaders. "The threat will return. We must be ready. But now, humanity leads. Not in shadows, but in strength." A pause. For the dead, for the living, for the future epilogue, the hidden empire was hidden no more. Across the shattered council, a new alliance formed, with humanity at its heart. Dax named its first leader, not as a conqueror, but as a survivor who refused extinction. And in the deep void, where no sensors reached, a faint pulse remained. The war was over, but the battle was only beginning.